The motorsport universe was turned on its head when the unthinkable became reality. Lewis Hamilton, the seven-time world champion and long-reigning monarch of Mercedes, made the seismic move to Ferrari. After 12 years of shaping the very soul of the Silver Arrow's aerodynamic dominance, Hamilton's shocking decision to don the scarlet red of the prancing horse sent shockwaves through the paddock and headlines rippled across every corner of the globe. It was supposed to be the beginning of a glorious new chapter, a poetic career finale scripted by the gods of Formula One themselves. But the fairy tale didn't start as expected. Hamilton's early outings with the legendary Maranello outfit have been anything but smooth sailing. Instead of a triumphant rise, the transition has been riddled with growing pains and missteps. From strategic blunders to unpredictable weather, the first few races have painted a picture of struggle rather than supremacy. And just as whispers began to circulate, speculation from media vultures picking apart every on-track fumble, asking whether Hamilton might already be second-guessing his leap of faith, he struck back with thunderous clarity. With a defiant voice that echoed through the paddock and beyond, Hamilton reaffirmed his complete, unshakable belief in Ferrari's mission. It was a bold stand at a pivotal moment, a message not just to the critics but to himself. But while words can inspire, numbers don't lie. Ferrari's campaign has stumbled out of the gates. After just 2 rounds, the Scuderia sits in a disappointing 5th place in the constructors' standings, dragging behind with only 17 points, an eye-watering 61 points adrift of McLaren, who have emerged as early championship pace-setters. For Hamilton, the journey began in Melbourne, and it was a sobering start. 10th place was all he could muster in Australia, a far cry from his usual front-running dominance. The mix of flawed strategies and ever-shifting weather conditions turned the race into a frustrating exercise in damage control. In China, hope briefly flickered. Hamilton stormed to pole position and controlled the sprint race like the veteran he is. It felt like momentum was shifting. But in the main event, after finishing 6th, disaster struck. Post-race inspections revealed technical violations that resulted in a devastating double disqualification for both Ferraris. For one, a car tipped the scales 1 kilogram under the mandated 800 kilograms minimum. Hamilton's SF-25, on the other hand, had suffered excessive wear on its skid blocks, a harsh technicality, but a disqualification nonetheless. The fallout was brutal. It was a tough start, no doubt, admitted Charles Leclerc. We just didn't have the pace we hoped for. And then losing even more points to a DQ, it hit the whole team hard. For Hamilton, the sting of reality couldn't be clearer. He now trails championship leader Lando Norris by 35 points, a sobering contrast for a man accustomed to owning the sharp end of the grid. The double DSQ only amplified the media storm, sparking heated debates and speculative pieces questioning the entire Ferrari operation. Analysts dissected every move. Pundits began to wonder aloud, had Hamilton made a mistake? Was the dream already unraveling? The honeymoon phase was well and truly over. It's been more than a decade since Ferrari last hoisted the Constructors' Trophy, back in 2008, and their most recent driver's title came in 2007, when Kimi Räikkönen narrowly edged out a rookie Hamilton by a single point. Since then, the Scuderia has lived in the shadow of its own mythology, weighed down by legacy and crushed under the pressure of expectations. With Hamilton now wearing the crest of Il Cavallino Rampante, the scrutiny has doubled. Every misstep is magnified. Every comment dissected. Team principal Fred Vasseur has not been spared either. The spotlight is relentless. And so, when Formula One's traveling circus descended on Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix, all eyes locked onto Hamilton. Would he finally show signs of cracking? Would he let a hint of regret slip into his tone? What came next was anything but defeatist. He saw the rumors, the headlines suggesting he was already losing faith in the project. His response was firm and resounding. Complete confidence in the team, total belief in the mission. And then he went further. He addressed the unrealistic expectations that had been projected onto his shoulders at the beginning of the season. People seemed to think Ferrari would start winning from race 1, that he would march to an 8th title straight out of the gate. That, he made clear, was never his mindset. He had entered a new environment, a new culture, and that meant embracing a period of adaptation. Even with the bitter aftertaste of disqualification hanging in the air, Hamilton's voice carried no resentment. Instead, it rang with perspective. This was not frustration. It was understanding. He had already been to the factory midweek. He had spoken to the engineers. Everyone was learning. The whole team was united in setbacks and growth alike. His words, calm but powerful, dismantled the narrative that had begun to snowball through the press. This wasn't a man having second thoughts. This was a warrior mid-transition, fully invested in the long game. He wasn't looking for an escape route. He was getting his hands dirty, digging in deep. Hamilton understands the size of the mountain he must now climb. After spending nearly 20 years embedded in the world of Mercedes, shifting to Ferrari has meant unlearning old habits and mastering new ones. The systems, the vehicle dynamics, even the communication flow, all different. Though every F1 team uses the same 1.6-liter turbocharged V6 hybrid engines, the way each squad handles energy recovery and car balance can vary wildly. This machine wants to be driven in its own way, Hamilton explained. It's about understanding all the systems and learning how to extract performance with the tools available. For him, it's like learning a new dialect after speaking one language for nearly 2 decades. The learning curve is steep, but the drive to succeed is as fierce as ever. Yes, the path ahead is uncertain. The margin for error is microscopic. But Hamilton, even under the heaviest pressure of his career, remains unbowed. This isn't just about adding another title. It's about transforming Ferrari from a nostalgic symbol into a modern powerhouse. And right now, no matter how brutal the opening chapters may be, he's still turning the page. Still writing. Still fighting. To digest. Lewis Hamilton expressed genuine satisfaction with how quickly he had adapted to life at Ferrari, especially considering the short time frame. After just 2 races, he felt encouraged by his progress, although he openly acknowledged there was still a mountain to climb before performing at the level he expects from himself. Yet the learning curve wasn't the only hurdle. There were external setbacks that made the adjustment even more complex. A specific clause in his contract barred him from participating in the crucial post-season tire tests in Abu Dhabi the previous December, sessions that every other driver on the grid benefited from. While the rest of the field logged dozens of laps and familiarized themselves with the 2025 compounds, Hamilton sat out. That absence would come back to haunt him. By the time preseason rolled around in Bahrain, his car suffered technical issues, meaning he never managed to complete a long run with any of the new tires. That lack of mileage had a cascading effect, particularly evident during the Chinese Grand Prix, where he admitted to feeling the knock-on effects of missing those valuable sessions. Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur later provided the technical background behind the devastating disqualifications that cost the team dearly. The tires were only part of the puzzle. For example, Charles Leclerc's car lost nearly a liter of water due to a leak in the drink system. These were not dramatic, headline-making failures, but rather an accumulation of subtle details that, when combined, proved catastrophic. Vasseur emphasized how razor-thin the margins in Formula One truly are. Every gram of weight, every degree of wing flex, every hint of wear is pushed to the absolute limit, and when the pressure increases, so too does the risk of crossing that fine line. Hamilton wasn't shy about pointing to Ferrari's setup struggles either. He believed it was a mix of various factors, but the most critical issue came down to dialing in the right configuration. He's still getting to grips with the machine, still exploring all the setup options the car has to offer. Reflecting on the race in China, he admitted to making the wrong call on Saturday, which likely compromised his qualifying performance. Had they gone in a slightly different direction, or simply left the car untouched, he believed a top 3 grid position was within reach, which would have drastically changed the complexion of the race. But for Hamilton, the takeaway wasn't rooted in failure. It was in the team's reaction. What stood out most was how Ferrari handled the setbacks. There was no finger-pointing, no blame games, just cold analysis and a collective determination to move forward. He revealed he's been personally invested in that internal review process since day one. From the start, he's been taking notes, highlighting areas for improvement, and strengthening relationships with every member of the team. For Hamilton, the early turbulence isn't a sign of collapse, but a chance to evolve. These are the moments that test a team's mettle, and the way Ferrari stayed composed gave him a deep sense of optimism for the journey ahead. The 2025 Formula One season kicks into gear this weekend with the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne. All eyes are fixated on a single man, Lewis Hamilton, as he begins this bold new chapter with Ferrari, following a historic 12-year reign at Mercedes. The buzz surrounding his debut in the iconic red overalls of the Scuderia is electrifying. But beneath the surface of the excitement lies a much deeper psychological battleground for the veteran champion. During a candid press conference on Thursday, just days before his first official race for Ferrari, Hamilton offered rare insight into the mental challenge he now faces. He spoke openly about the immense pressure he places on himself, pressure that far outweighs anything the outside world could impose. Since joining Ferrari, he claimed, no one has made him feel external pressure. It's all coming from within. He knows what he brings to the table. He knows what he's capable of. The challenge now is keeping an open mind and remaining patient with the process. That kind of raw honesty reveals more than any lap time ever could. It's the mindset of a man who knows he's about to face one of the greatest tests of his career. At 40 years old, Hamilton steps into the unknown, not just with a new car or new team, but under the crushing weight of global expectations. Can he carry the legacy of Ferrari, the most storied name in motorsport history, and still carve out a new chapter of greatness for himself? His composure in the face of that pressure spoke volumes. He struck a reserved tone when asked about his short-term goals. He said there were no expectations heading into Melbourne. The adjustment process was still ongoing. Was this humility or quiet concern over Ferrari's current competitiveness? When pressed further on whether he felt satisfied with the machine at his disposal, Hamilton calmly stated that he did. But he admitted the sample size was small, just 3 days in the car, making it difficult to gauge Ferrari's true standing compared to rivals. For now, the focus remains internal. Heads down, eyes forward. He acknowledged how fast Carlos was. Kimi too looked sharp. No one really knows yet who's where. It looks like a tight battle across the field. Yet, behind that composed delivery, a fire still flickered. He described this moment as the most exciting period of his life. Whether it turns out to be a renaissance or a pathway to disappointment remains to be seen. But what's undeniable is that this move isn't just another driver switch. It's the most monumental transfer in the sport's modern era. Hamilton's arrival at Ferrari has already triggered a tidal wave across the industry. Ferrari's merchandise sales reportedly surged by an astronomical 400% following the announcement. The company's market value soared more than 10%, gaining nearly $5.5 billion in capitalization. Meanwhile, Hamilton's first Instagram post in Ferrari colors broke records, becoming the most liked Formula One post of all time with a jaw-dropping 5.7 million likes. There's a reason the world is watching. Lewis Hamilton has inked a 2-year deal with Ferrari worth over $50 million per season, but financial gain isn't what's driving him. The true objective is far more profound, the pursuit of that elusive 8th world title, the one that would shatter Michael Schumacher's long-standing record. Achieving that milestone with Ferrari, the very team where Schumacher built his legacy, would be the crowning jewel of Hamilton's storied career. Rob Smedley, former Ferrari race engineer, described the partnership as a match crafted by destiny. Hamilton, in his view, has long transcended the boundaries of sport. He carries an intangible quality, a spark, a magnetism. Pair that with the mystique of Ferrari, and the result could be nothing short of explosive. This, he said, feels like a cosmic alignment. Not everyone shares that sentiment. Former Ferrari team boss Mattia Binotto voiced skepticism. He acknowledged Hamilton's greatness but suggested the British driver might be on the decline. In his view, had Ferrari not signed Hamilton, it could have paved the way for Max Verstappen to join the team next year. Now the question lingers. Will Hamilton silence the doubters and lead Ferrari back to championship-winning form for the first time since 2007? The weight of expectation is immense, and Hamilton is leaving nothing to chance. To ensure a smooth transition, he has built a top-tier support structure around him. Team principal Fred Vasseur, who once managed Hamilton during his GP2 championship run in 2006, is now at the helm of Ferrari. That past connection could prove instrumental as Hamilton adjusts to Ferrari's notoriously intricate and tight-knit ecosystem. Hamilton has also brought familiar faces into the fold. His longtime Mercedes race engineer Loic Serra and former deputy team boss Jerome D'Ambrosio are now part of the Scuderia's operation. Angela Cullen, his trusted physiotherapist and confidant, made a surprise return after parting ways 2 years ago. His manager Mark Hines and his father, Anthony Hamilton, are also back by his side. It's a powerfully close inner circle, designed to shield him from external pressure and optimize his performance. Veteran F1 commentator Martin Brundle was quick to take notice. Hamilton, he observed, appeared revitalized. There was a lightness to him, a renewed energy. The switch to Ferrari seemed to have breathed new life into the veteran driver. But Brundle also emphasized the challenges ahead. Hamilton is now working with a new race engineer, Riccardo Adami, and has to navigate a team culture that is structurally and philosophically different from Mercedes. Jokingly, Brundle remarked that Lewis might still be figuring out where all the green buttons are, and noted that Hamilton has even begun learning Italian, a symbol of his full commitment to the cause. Hamilton's Ferrari debut is dominating headlines, and the battle for the 2025 crown is already heating up. In a surprising twist, former F1 driver Ralf Schumacher believes Max Verstappen won't be defending his title this year. Speaking on the Sky Germany podcast, Schumacher pointed out that while Red Bull started strong last season, they gradually lost control of the car's balance. Verstappen, he argued, was their saving grace, but that kind of rescue act isn't sustainable forever. Instead, Schumacher sees Lando Norris as a legitimate title contender. After a commanding pre-season and securing the Constructors' Championship with McLaren last year, Norris is gaining momentum. Two-time world champion Mika Häkkinen agrees wholeheartedly. He reflected on his own struggles before finally clinching a title and believes Norris is walking a similar path. He's taken risks, been self-critical, pushed himself, now he's ready. McLaren is doubling down. Oscar Piastri has signed a multi-year contract extension that keeps him on board through at least 2028. Team boss Zak Brown declared that McLaren now boasts the strongest driver pairing on the grid. Meanwhile, Mercedes is fielding George Russell and teenage prodigy Kimi Antonelli, while Ferrari is armed with the potent duo of Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. The stage is set for an epic showdown. But amid the buzz surrounding Hamilton's new chapter, there's a shadow looming over his recent form. The last 3 seasons have been underwhelming by his own lofty standards. Statistically, this has been one of the driest spells of his career. In head-to-head qualifying battles last year, George Russell beat him 19-5. Hamilton didn't sugarcoat it. He admitted outright that he was simply too slow. Over his last 69 races with Mercedes, he collected just 2 victories, a staggering figure for someone of his caliber. His last outing at Albert Park ended with a mechanical failure, a scenario he can ill afford to repeat as he kicks off his Ferrari journey. As engines fire and lights go out in Melbourne, Hamilton's adventure with Ferrari begins in earnest. This is more than just the start of a new season. It could very well be the final act in one of Formula One's most extraordinary careers. Whether it ends in triumph or heartbreak, the world will be watching. Hamilton's presence in Ferrari Red was meant to reignite a golden era for the prancing horse. Fans and pundits envisioned a fairy tale return to dominance. But just days before the curtain rose on the 2025 season, a wave of unsettling headlines disrupted the narrative. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko stirred controversy by questioning Ferrari's decision. In his view, Hamilton isn't even on the same performance level as his teammate Charles Leclerc. If that assessment is accurate, then Ferrari's title hopes may already be slipping away. Instead of being the catalyst for glory, Hamilton could find himself battling just to stay relevant. The notion feels surreal. This is Lewis Hamilton, the man who once ruled Formula One with iron will. The icon who redefined greatness at Mercedes. But after over a decade at Brackley, Hamilton made the shock move to Maranello, a transfer born out of ambition and perhaps a touch of desperation. Mercedes was losing ground as Red Bull soared to dominance. Hamilton sensed that the Silver Arrows could no longer provide him with the machinery to fight for titles. His decision to jump to Ferrari was bold, a final gamble to etch his name in history. But with the clock ticking, the million-dollar question remains: did he choose wisely? Ferrari offered a fresh challenge and a chance to lead from the front again. But this isn't a vacant throne. It's a team already centered around Leclerc, a lightning-fast driver who's fiercely loyal to the Scuderia. Both drivers now find themselves confined by the limitations of the SF25. While many assumed Hamilton joining Ferrari would be a guaranteed success, the most decorated driver at the most historic team, the reality is proving more complex. That coveted red seat doesn't come with guarantees. Pre-season testing in Bahrain gave fans their first real glimpse into Ferrari's new dynamic. The results were mixed. Ferrari looked solid, finishing second and third on the timesheets, but it was Leclerc, not Hamilton, who appeared more dialed in. Though Hamilton did manage to edge ahead in raw pace by 0.05 of a second, reports suggested a technical glitch had hindered Leclerc's run, raising the uncomfortable possibility that he might have gone even quicker under normal circumstances. Marko didn't mince words in an interview with Sport.de. Leclerc, he said bluntly, was clearly faster. He knows the car. He knows the team. Marko conceded that Hamilton logged plenty of laps and improved steadily, but still isn't operating at the same level as Charles. Even George Russell, Hamilton's former teammate, weighed in during an interview with BBC Sport. Russell praised the immense skill of both drivers but hinted that fireworks could be on the horizon. With two elite competitors under the same roof, tensions could surface. He called it an intriguing setup and predicted the competition between them would be intense. Hamilton isn't walking into an easy situation. He's navigating unfamiliar terrain, new machinery, new culture, and a teammate already embedded deep in Ferrari's system. And with pundits watching his every move, especially after 3 underwhelming seasons and a steep performance decline, the pressure is unlike anything he's faced before. The car might be scarlet, but the spotlight on Lewis Hamilton is blindingly white.